So Dave was attracted to trains in Spangle, Washington at the age of 18 months. His mother thought it was the noise and the size of them that attracted Dave, and it probably didn't hurt that a track foreman and his wife lived in the other half of the duplex. A Mark's wind-up train was followed by Lionel. Model railroader was discovered in 1949, and that prompted a switch to HO scale. Dave obtained a copy of BB and Clegg's narrow gauge in the Rockies in 1958 and decided he liked the small size of the equipment and then ended up building in both HO and HON3. Well, in the 60s and taking some additional training at Lowry Air Force Base in Colorado, he and a buddy visited narrow gauge country and the hook was set. Dave ended up building an ON3 after Chemtron released their C16 kit, but he also stuck with HON3 and HO while waiting for folks like Cliff Grant and John Pelling to solve the C16 driver problem. Later in the 60s, Gerald Best published his book, Nevada County Narrow Gauge, and Dave found a Western narrow gauge prototype to emulate. Dave left the Air Force and went to the Southern Pacific Railroad and was promoted to engineer in 1970. His first ON3 Cascade County narrow gauge was dismantled in the early 1980s, and the current version, which is the subject of his presentation tonight, was started in 1986. And as an aside, Dave is going to be the newest minted National Model Railroad Association MMR here on that, and I think that after seeing Dave's presentation, you'll agree it's an award well earned. Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Dave. My name is Dave Clune. I live in Eugene, Oregon, and I want to welcome everybody here. I guess it's afternoon and evening back in the east. I'm going to give a tour of my Cascade County narrow gauge. And by definition, narrow gauge implies a minimum cost approach to penetrating rough country cheaply, using steep grades, sharp curves, and light rails to reach their objectives. My CCNG is about 160 feet long, and it serves the communities between Cascade and Murphy. And to get to the nuts and bolts here, let's see here. Yeah, this is a picture of the entire layout. As you can see, it's about 31 by 26, and then it's chopped up 16 by 16 there on the one end. And we're gonna talk about the nuts and bolts for a minute here before we dive into the layout itself. The scale is ON3, O scale, narrow gauge, 3 foot, based on the Nevada County narrow gauge by Jerry Best of 1965, but it's proto-freelanced. I borrowed other locomotives, cars, so on and so forth, to include in this. And the locale is in southwestern Oregon in the Siskiyou Mountains, Wolf Creek being the main terminal there, and Wolf Creek does exist and the SP does run through it. The era is 1925 to 1935, and the minimum radius is 37.5 inches, and that's a turn-back curve that you look at from the inside of the curve. Maximum grade is 3.5 visible. There's a steeper grade hidden. Bench work is L girder, open grid with risers for the splined road bed and homosote underlayment on top of the splined road bed. Track height is from 45 to 60 inches. Track is wood ties on homosote beveled to look like ballast, and rail or cork. Track height is approximately 45 to 60 inches, and wood ties on homosote rail is code 83, which is about 50 to 55 pounds real on the main line, and code 70 on the siding and spurs, which is about 30 to 35 pounds in real life. Turnouts are built in place, no frog numbers. They're just built to the largest dimension I could. Scenery is cardboard strips with industrial paper towel dipped in imperial plaster. Now that imperial plaster sets a little slower than the casting plaster. Homemade rock molds were used for the rocks, and they were put on as wet molds and then painted and blended with acrylic washes from spray bottles. Trees are cedar shingle trunks and cassia or skewer sticks with furnace filter. Some ground cover is scenic supplies from the hobby shop, and the backdrop is hand painted. Control is DCC lens with 3 power districts, and the sound is provided by Soundtrek's tsunami decoders, which are the first generation. Locomotive and cars are based on the Nevada County narrow gauge and other various Western narrow gauges. And the couplers are KD number 5s, which are about 3/4 size of the regular Jenny couplers. And all the cars, most of the cars and a lot of the coaches were built from Hermandar plans. The dispatching on this railroad is by timetable and train order. Right now, anyway, it's car cards, 4-way cards are typical, which we use in the hobby here. Okay, this is I in an Oregon sweatshirt, putting in the track between, this is the area from Wolf Creek and across, and then it goes to Cascade here. And this is, again, I had a complaint about the Oregon sweatshirt. And so I borrowed my brother's Oregon State sweatshirt, to whom this guy went to school. And so we're an equal opportunity offender. So that's what that's all about. And the view from the outside inside is this right here. That's the start of the layout tour. Here again, as we said before, splined roadbed. And I've been looking for that clamp for a month. Let's see here. This is an attempt to kill the sound. If you notice, this splined roadbed has spacers in it, makes excellent soundboard. It makes a nice reverberating sound. This is the yard, has a cork on it. And of course, you can see the scenery. And of course, these are elevators holding up everything, legs, braces, so on and so forth. Okay. And this is the control system here. This is the main computer, lens computer, and then these are the 3 computers that take care of the 3 sections of the layout I have. They're rather long because the railroad's been extended. So anyway, yeah. And this is the hand controller I use. I prefer the plug-in because this is a finite rheostat type throttle, not the thumb wheel I don't care for anyway. And again, this is just some more, another shot of the scenery. This is a corrugated cardboard, and then other strips of cardboard, and then the plaster, they're heavy duty hand paper towels dipped in plaster and laid over this to form the basic scenery. And over that was rock molds and things. And of course, shortly after the railroad was started, we went broke. So this lady here, who is my wife, bought the railroad and writes the checks. So you can understand why the maintenance is not up to par. This is a little uncoupling stick that I come up with because actually it's for uncoupling in between diaphragms on passenger cars in HO. This is a dental pick, very small dental pick, and it's made by a company called G.M or G.U.M. I don't know the full name of the company. I looked on it, and That's all it says. Anyway, you can get these in a store, drugstore, and this is nothing more than a skewer faced off and then covered with the plastic that will fit the skewer, and then another piece of plastic on top of that, and then painted international orange so I can find it when I drop it. And so anyway, this is the dispatcher's office, and this table and this all come down because this is a hallway. And so this is Seth Newman's telephone set up for me. And this is for the fast clock. And this clock here is a commercial product, but Dave Adams has so kindly made a beautiful, beautiful oak clock face for it. And I have 3 of them, and one of them's here and the other 2 in the railroad room. Now there's a foot pedal down below for hands-free talking on the mic here, light, and then down below is this is the clipboard we give the operators, and this is a schedule, and this is a train sheet here for the dispatcher, and then you might have the orders here. We only use a 19 order and a clearance. We only have, and of course, this is the timetable, and it's only got 1 item on it, and that's the first class passenger train, which we seldom run because we have more fun with the freights. So anyway, we're going to start now. Take a look at this area right here, and it's about 12.5 feet, 13 feet long, and it's about 12 inches or 13 inches wide, and it's a little wider here at the turntable. So that's again the cutout size, and this is what it looks like in real life. This is the inbound track from Murphy. This is the depot. This is the Cascade side, and either way you come in. If you come in on the Murphy side, you own the yard. If you come in on the Cascade side, you own the yard. The only difference is that if you come in on the Cascade side, it's in the yard limits of Wolf Creek, so there's no need to get orders here. But if you come in on the Murphy side, you must get a clearance and a order to leave, because it's an initial terminal then for going back out this way. You must leave the same way you came in. That's the reason. And this, of course, is again the depot, and it's a Disney, I think a Disney depot or something like that. And it was a beautiful kit. I hated to chop it up, but I had to in order to make it fit. So anyway, this is the Cascade side, and over, let's see here, over here is 00 mile post, and here is 23.1. Well, it's only 21 miles. Surveyors, I guess, had a little too much to drink. But anyway, engines come in on the trains come in on the Murphy side, and he's on the turntable. This was never supposed to be scenic. This was supposed to simply be a fiddle yard. That's what this is. It's purely a fiddle yard. But anyway, this is a cutout from apparently a sink. It's 3/4 inch plywood. And then I built this using this as a template. And then I took it down to the machinist who worked for my son and had him dead center and put a steel dowel in the middle here, and then drilled the bottom, this plate here, drilled the plate dead center, and drilled it and put a brass tube down there, and it turns real nice, real nice. This is the locking mechanism for the turntable. And as you noticed before, it had big handles on it, so it's pretty easy to turn. This is nothing more than heavy brass tubing, or brass stock, and then center drilled, and then another one soldered on. And then this is nothing more than brass tubing soldered to a strip of brass, and then it's cut off like bologna. And then this goes on each end of the turntable, and this is spiked down to the table here, so it turns. And you have to keep the handle down, otherwise it fouls the locomotive. And you can see the big handle here that you turn it with. So anyway, that the engine's been turned, and he's back to Murphy, and he's going to get his orders and clearance so he can leave town. He's got one car to take out with him. But we're going to go the other direction. We're going to go from Cascade on around to a place called Wolf Creek, and we're going to take a look at this next. This is what it's all about here. Okay. Now, this is Wolf Creek, and this is the engine house, machine shop, transfer shed, main line, standard gauge. This is standard gauge right here. And this is the coal track or gondola track. And this is kind of a switchback here. And this is Zinn's woodworking. And then the brewery and a Miner's Mercantile and the Wolf Creek hardware store and the depot, water tower here. And there over here, there's an oil track for filling oil cars. And then this is called the flat track, and it's got a overhead crane. And then down here, you can drive stuff on and off flat cars. And that's what that looks like. Now, this is what it looks like in real life. This is the engine house. This is the machine shop. This is the transfer shed, Zinn's, little cafe. This is the brewery. It's based on Pasadena. They had years and years and years ago a narrow gauge layout. And this is, of course, this building and this building are chooch. The rest of them are scratch built. And this is the hardware store, and this is the miner supply. And this is this is a overhead crane right here. And this is the oil tank for the oil crane right here for the steam engines, and this section house. This is a view of the fiddle yard on this side, Cascade Murphy. This is Wolf Creek here, and I'll explain this in just a second. These are cutouts set into the layout because it's fairly narrow here. It's only about 48 inches aisleway right here. And you've got, again, people working here and working here. So it's inset to clear anybody. And again, this is an answer to a problem that I created myself. And that was that I had originally an 18-inch aisleway down here, all the way through here. There wasn't any scenery in here. And there was an 18-inch aisleway down here where you could switch the brewery and the Zinn's cabinets and the two other little industries down here from the switchback here. Very poor idea, very poor idea. But we found a solution in the sense that I remembered that John Allen at one time when we visited him, luckily, he had one of these up. He was working on a part of his layout that had one of these lift ups. And I looked at it, and this is kind of what he had. And they work just beautifully. This is the handle that lifts it up. There's two of them. There's one here and one here. And this one, you lift up first, and then you lift up this one. And then to put it back down, you put this one down first, and this was second, because there's an overlap here on the scenery. And that kind of plugs up the hole. This is a three-way switch, and apparently some people aren't familiar with them, but these are movable rails here. They're not spiked down, and this is what they call bridle irons. They keep the track engaged, and this is the bridle iron with the throw bar on it, and it goes to a Chemtron harp switch stand. And this track here, rails, this is a rip track. This is for the first stall, the second stall in the roundhouse, and this is for the first stall in the roundhouse. And we'll look at that later. There, now, this is the first stall and the second stall. And this locomotive here is number 5, and it existed on the Nevada County narrow gauge. Now, what drew me to the narrow gauge in Nevada County narrow gauge was 3 items, and that was the fact that they had Baldwin locomotives. They had they were a common carrier. That means that they could condemn land for right of way, but they also had to publish a tariff for anything offered carrier. And it was only 22 miles long, and it was accessible to me. I could drive down to Colfax. It ran between Colfax and Nevada City, California. And it's in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. And it's beautiful country. It's gold country. And that's what their primary journey in life was. And the number 5 did exist on the Nevada County narrow gauge, and it still exists today and is under steam. And then there's, of course, number 1 and then number 9 here. We'll get to those in a minute. This is a picture of the engine house with the roof off. And again, narrow gauge box cars on this side, standard gauge on the other side of the transfer. And this is a Jeff Johnson picture showing the thing at night, the roundhouse at night, and the machine shop here under lights. And this is, of course, the maintenance away place, and this is an oil tank here. And I never have put a safety railing around this. I guess I better do that. Let's see here. This is the standard gauge. These 3 cars here, or 4 cars here, 3 box cars and a gone. These are narrow gauge gons that are being filled with coal. This is a narrow gauge box cars on this side. And then, of course, the switchback. So anyway, that's the ends. And that's, this is the brewery. This is the Miners Emporium, and this is the hardware store. And this is the depot. And Ben King, years ago, had a station called Timber City, and I just simply named it Wolf Creek and made an open station here, order station. And this is number 5 with a passenger train, and these are the passenger cars I have. I have 2 passenger cars and then a combine and a baggage car here. Oops. This is another view of it. Again, this is a typical train. There's 6 cars here. There's 3 of these, a box car, and then a caboose, and then 2. That's about 1 car more, and I usually run. This locomotive is number 8. It's a Sunset Ross product, and it is the last locomotive on the Nevada County narrow gauge. It existed, and it was the last engine that they used in 1943. This is a 440. It's a Max Gray, and it was probably built before some of you people were born. It was 1956 or 7, and I've rebuilt it about 2 or 3 times, and it runs very nice. Okay, and this is the west Y track. It's 42 inches, and the 42 inches over here crosses over at grade, and we'll get to that one in a minute here. And we're going to go now to West Wolf Creek, which I just showed you here. This is where all the highly detailed industry is at. It's not on the layout. And this is, again, close up of it. And this is the tunnel mouth leading into it. This piece of scenery here comes out, and I can work on the switch machines that are in here. And there you go. There's your highly detailed industrial section. These little ore cars I bought 2 kits and then got a hold of the owner, Herman Dar, and asked him if I could make my own. And he said, have at it. So I made about 30 more. These are the loads that go with these little short cars, and they all have a piece of steel in them, as do these for the longer cars. And this is the magnet that takes them out, makes life a lot easier. And the combine is a Bachmann combine converted to 3-foot. And now we're going to leave Wolf Creek, and they're going to head into a tunnel and immediately go up into a 4% grade right here. And then it starts, vertical curve starts leveling off here, and it comes down to about 1%. Right here, if you can't make this, you back into the yard and figure out what you're going to do. Talk to the dispatcher or somebody, yard master if there's one, and figure out what you're going to do. And this is Black Rock. Again, this is a stamp mill, coal bin, three-legged derrick here, stiff-legged derrick, water tank, warehouse for the stamp mill, and a depot. This is a main line. This is a through track here, through siding. This is the siding for the main line, and this is a team track or set out track or LCL track or whatever you want to call it. And this is a train arriving at Black Rock. You got some coal, I think, for them. This is the LCL track here. And as you noticed, this little boxcar here is sitting just catty corner from the depot where the agent can keep an eye on it, and he can unlock it, so on and so forth. And this is where they can store their stuff that they either take out of the car or want to put into cars. And this guy's hauling some stuff off. This tank car here is dumping oil down into an oil tank down there. And so this is, again, another further on. This is the depot, and I'll show you that in a minute. This is a water tank hidden by a tree. And this is, again, the warehouse for the stamp mill. And this is a three-legged derrick, which still exists today. And this depot was built by a friend of mine in Canada, Tom Beaton, and along with several other structures on the layout he built. Very nice, very beautiful job in plastic. It's all plastic. And this is a stamp mill at Black Rock, and we'll take a quick tour of it. This is a tram going off the layout, and it's the mule here with the little 1-ton ore cars, and their mules will hold, they will pull about 5 of them. If you put the 6th one on, you're not going anywhere. They're not that dumb. This is a ore dump where they dump the ore into the grizzly, and then if it's too big, it goes into a Blake crusher and then drops into the storage bins here behind the stamps. And I have 20 stamps. This mill is a 20 stamp mill, and it can process 50 tons of ore in 24 hours. And it's also of the cyanide process. And so this is the cyanide tank. This is a clean water tank. And I'll show you the process here real quick. The ore comes in there and goes down through some stamps, and I'll show those in a minute. These are amalgamation plates. Now, they're in batteries of 5, 5 stamps, 5 stamps, 5 stamps, 5 stamps, 20 stamps. And each 5 stamps has its own amalgamation plate. And the ore comes down here and then goes down into a sluice and is pumped up to the separators up here, a separator, and it separates into the sands and then what they call the slimes, which is nothing but mud or real fine dirt. And the sands again go over here to this area, and the slimes come down here and are mixed in this mixing tank right here with potassium cyanide or sodium cyanide. And it then starts its journey and it goes down to this tank here, I'm sorry, goes to this tank next and is again assayed to see how much gold and silver there is, and maybe more potassium cyanide is added. It generally is about 5% to water. In other words, it's 95% water and 5% either potassium or sodium cyanide. So then it goes from this tank to this tank to this tank to this tank, and they assay it again. If it's the assay shows that they've got most of the gold and silver, and then they call it the pregnant liquor is pumped off and put in this tank here and then sent to the gold tank where it mixes with the other pregnant liquor coming in from the other areas. And eventually it will be pumped into these boxes here. We'll get to that in just a second here. Yeah, these are the stamps, and these were built from Charlie Bromer stamps. These are built from Charlie Bromer's parts. The wood is mine. The metal is this part here is Charlie Bromer's, and we used a steel rod and then key stock in the bottom here to make them sound great. But they'll drive you nuts if you run them very long. And also these are soft metal castings, so they cannot be run very long, or otherwise you're going to get a little pile of soft metal down here, and that's going to be the tap or the tappets, I guess they are, and you can replace those, but they're expensive. So I don't run them very often. This is the furnace steam producer, and this is the steam lines, either an outbound or an inbound line. I don't remember which. And this is there's a little steam engine attached to a dynamo, which was most of the time it was DC, direct current. And this is the knob and tube wiring, which I actually use to hang the lights off of. And then there's a little panel here that's supposed to indicate the wiring going up to the various small motors and lights in the mill. That's about all that dynamo could run. The big power is over here, and this is a coreless steam engine running all the heavy equipment in the mill. As you can see, there's lots of belts and things running it. And this is the outside part. This is where the sands come down, and they come in here, and they're distributed through these little various length pipes. And when this gets full, they churn it and turn it, and when it gets full, they assay it. And when they feel that they've got all the gold and silver out of it, they'll drain off the water of the pregnant liquor, and that goes to the gold tank, and that goes through here. And the rest of it, some guys get in here with a fire hose and wash it all down and wash it down into this pipe, and this pipe goes to the creek. So it's great for the fish, I guess. This in here is a secondary tank, and it's used when the other one is full and being cleaned. This should not be full. This should be empty. Okay. Now we're going to go over here. The gold tank, after all this rigmarole gets done, and they pumped all the pregnant liquor to the gold tank and they let it settle, they'll run it through this pipe here, bring it in here, and it goes through what they call launders. And each one of these have a metal box in it with a shavings of zinc in it. And the water will go up and over and up and over and up and over through these boxes. So it mixes well with the zinc. And the zinc absorbs all the gold, silver, and some of the other base metals. And when at the end of the month or whenever they feel like they've got most of it out of there, they'll shut everything down and they'll unlock this. And trusted employees will take these boxes, which are about 24 inches long and about 14 inches wide, and they'll dump them into this container over here that has sulfuric acid. Now, if you're familiar with gas chambers, that's exactly what this is. It's sulfuric acid and potassium cyanide. So the sulfuric acid drives off the zinc and it exhausts through this stack. And in theory, there shouldn't be anything green around this mill for a half mile, kill everything off. We're going to move on now from Black Rock, and we're going to go start up a 2% grade across the steel trestle and in a tunnel, and then across a big wooden trestle on a 2% grade, and then we're going to hit a 3.3% grade up to Police and a little short siding up here. And we'll take a look at that. Okay, that's again, this is the biggest curve on the railroad, which is 45-inch radius. And it's got easements up both ends. And let's see here. Yeah, there it is right here. Okay, this is Glees Creek right here, flowing down there. And that's the big trestle, and it's on a 2% grade, and it's also elevated for curvature. And so then it goes up here, and this part right here is on a 3.3% grade going up to Glees. And we'll get up here. This is the lease area, and we'll have a look at that. It's just a little wide spot in the railroad. Okay, it's got a depot and it's got a ore dump there. And this is what it looks like when it's a dead end aisleway here. And this is the main line. It comes up here and it goes across. And the summit is right up here at 61.5 inches, I believe. And then it comes back down at 2%, crosses a trestle here over a slide area, and heads for hard Scrabble. And this is a car card holder again, same thing as the other place. This is the car holders. And we'll take a look at, this is a train coming in here, and this is one of two actual insulated cars that are refrigerator. I call them refrigerator cars. They're insulated cars. And this is a regular box car that I built. And this is the dragger that's underneath it that cleans the track. It's nothing more than masonite with two nails up to the floor to hold it in place. And this here again is Glees Creek coming up there, and there's the falls, and then it goes back over here and disappears. And this is the tipple for the mine, and this is the track that runs to the mine over the railroad, and then crosses over. This is the siding here. Okay. Okay, now we're going to head down across this slide area and enter the tunnel and get to hard Scrabble. And there we go across the slide area and into the tunnel. And this is, again, this is hard Scrabble. And this is based on Nevada City, California. And it's pretty accurate because from here, this point right here, okay, this is the main line. It goes down and it goes down to here. From here to there, it's exactly 100 scale feet shorter than the real thing. So if you extended it 100 feet, it'd be exactly what the length of the real railroad is, or was. And It's all gone now, of course. Now this is the main line. This is a siding, team track, LCL track, freight station. This is a station. This is the Stanley Mine station. This is an overhead crane. And this is a oil and coal dealer here. And this track right here was actually there, but it was actually down here and it curved out this way. And I didn't have room out here. There were several oil dealers that were here. And the turntable is in the proper position. And of course, you couldn't turn anything. Oops, you couldn't turn anything with anything on the main line because the handles follow the main line to turn the turntable. This is the track or engine house track. There was a engine house here with 2 bays. Only one was ever used, but I changed it and had the beaten mine number 2 there. Let's take a look at Hardscrabble. Okay, this is a train coming in, and this is the old road going up to the mine, and this is the turntable. This is the double spouted water tank. This is the mine, and this is the tipple, and that's a maintenance away shack there. Okay, and this is a oil sump. It's a concrete. Nothing more than a concrete hole in the ground. They poured diesel oil or something in, or heavier oil than that, for engine oil, for locomotives, because sometimes they needed to take on oil, and this is the terminal. So anyway, there was a little engine right here, a little reciprocating engine, and it could either be run by steam or air, mostly air off the engine reservoir, and they could pump oil up into the tender. And of course, this is the beaten mine. This mine is made out of cardboard shell and then covered with a Chinese calendar, which happened to be made out of basswood that happened to be exactly 1 foot wide in scale, and 1/4 scale is 1/4. It is a 12 inches wide by exactly 1.5 inches thick. So it was perfect, and it was clear. So it made nice siding. And this is the maintenance away shack. And these are the guys playing checkers for the last 20 years. That explains why the track's such poor shape. This is a Stanley mine. And again, this mine and the other mine have both been reversed from their real life positions. This still exists in Colorado, Idaho Springs. And I got to take close-up pictures of it before they put the wire fence around it and guards and everything. So, and this is a high-level view, and this is the main line here. This is the LCL track and the freight house and so on and so forth. This is the depot. This is the crane track. This is the overhead crane. And if you guys that have been around a while, this is the Gazzano brothers doing track maintenance. Now that explains something. And this, of course, is the siding. And this is the line to the Stanley mines. This is the depot from Nevada City, and it's made out of cardboard again, covered with that Chinese calendar and then battens from a friend of mine, Norris Zen. And this is a cigar wrapper roofing that I made. And then this is exactly what it looked like back in the day. And of course, this is staged. So that's what that looks like. Now, I think we're going to move on. Yes, we're going to leave Hardscrabble. And this is again another lift out, and we don't take this out. And this door hasn't been opened in probably 15 years. And the only reason this is a lift out is because if there was ever a fire, we just simply pick it up, throw it out the door, and go out, follow it out. And this leads to Dupree Zeleny. It's a lumber outfit. I have two friends, Gene Dupree and Bill Zeleny, and Gene is unfortunately passed on, but they both are loggers. They both love to make logging equipment, and so this is their area. Gene scratch built shays and climaxes and stuff like that. Anyway, that shows that. Okay, looking at this is simply a painting. This shows a spar pole right here. And this track right here just runs into the wall, and this is a loaded car, this is a loaded car, and this is an empty. So it holds about 3 cars in here, and this hill kind of hides everything. And this is a spar pole, and then it's got a heel boom loader here loading a log, I guess. And then it's got high lead logging, and you can see a log being drugged. They're logging back up in here, I guess. And little bigger picture of it. Okay, now we're going to,
Technically, it's a hay rack boom, not a heel boom.
Oh, I've been corrected by Jeff. It's a hay rack boom. Probably a poor rendition of it. But anyway, now we're going to leave here and go down the long wall to a place called Gold Hill, and we'll take a look at that. This is along the wall, and this was here for a reason. 2 of them. One to keep the train on the track, and the other from falling over, and the other from people backing into it. And it works both ways. This is an aisleway. It's fairly narrow, and it's there's a switching area on the other side here. So anyway, this area here is about a ½ inch above the top of the rail. And then it's about 3 inches from here to here. That's about the minimum you can get ON3 in there. And so anyway, we had a test early on one time where one of the cars in the train behind the engine derailed, and it pulled the tender over and then tipped the engine over, and everything laid along this rail here. So it worked, thank goodness. And it turned out to be a bug. We'd run over a bug some kind and derailed everything. And that was apparently a good test because it worked. So that worked. Now it's a 2% downgrade here, all the way down to the Murphy. And this is Gold Hill down here. So we're down here now, and we'll get there. This is a close-up of it. It's nothing but an ore dump and a team track, and this is what it looks like. There's a little, there's a mine right here, and there's a little tram track running along here back and forth, and then it winds up at this ore dock. And this is a mine load, mine run ore that goes into these cars here, these little short cars, and then the high grade ore comes down here, and there's a guy that puts it in a sack and stacks it up here. I don't think he'll stack it that high because they're awfully heavy. They put them in box cars, and they just put them over the trucks. Maybe approximately 20 tons of it. And so that's, again, the same thing in every other place. There's a place here for your car cards to fiddle with, to keep them off the layout. And then this is the car card holder, and I think there's one car to come out. So anyway, yeah. And this is the telephone for calling the dispatcher. And now we're going to go to Murphy, and That's the whole, that's it. That's the Cascade County Railroad, designed and built by Dave Clune. Photos and PowerPoint presentation assembled by Jeff Johnson. And I want to take my hat off to him, because without him, you wouldn't have had this. Because I am absolutely challenged with any kind of computer. So big hats off to Jeff. He made this all possible. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'll entertain any possibilities. Yeah, he has, if I could show this, he has a video, if you would like to order one of this layout. It's a little bit more in depth. And
Plus it moves.
Huh?
And it moves.
Oh, yes, and it moves.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
at trainvideosandparts.com.
No.
And I apologize for the crass commercial message.
Okay, well, do we have any questions?
The first is actually a comment from Bob Parrish, and he just says it was a privilege to be part of the evaluation team who visited your layout during the PNR convention, and as you're working your way toward Master Model Railroader. The next thing is a question from Dave Schillen, who wants to know, who was the manufacturer of number 8?
Oh, Sunset. Sunset Models produced 25 of the number 8s. And far as I know, I think there was 3 of them in Eugene, but I have one. Excuse me, I have one, and it's I ran it so much I wore it out. I wore the original number 8 out. So I had a friend of mine who, or gentleman who worked for my son, was a watchmaker, and he lives in Oak Ridge. Anyway, he completely redid the engine, all new axles, all new gear, axle boxes, and recorded it and everything else, and it runs like a Swiss watch now. So redid the gearing and so on and so forth. So yes, it is. It's a Sunset. It was and it's a very good engine,
Yeah.
very nice engine. They were well built.
Okay, the next is a comment from Dave Woodrell, who says, magnificent work, Dave, and thanks for sharing. And congratulations on your MMR. It's long overdue.
Well, thanks, Dave. And I enjoyed your layout too. So I'm looking forward to seeing it when I come up.
Okay. Yeah, Steve Hollenbeck says it's a great layout. How much hidden track did you build?
How much hidden track?
Yes.
Very, very, very little, because I have a hard time with hidden track, and I didn't want to play peekaboo with everything. So
I noticed it was about 3 feet, it looked like.
Yes, I think it was. And not only that, but I have an emergency door getting in there if it's an excruciating painful situation. You can take the section off there and get in there and fix it.
Yeah.
So I don't have very much hidden track.
Okay, then we do have a question from Fran Foley, and he was wondering, what is a Chinese calendar?
Okay, a Chinese calendar. This friend Rick Kang gave me, and it came from China, and on one side they have their dates and so on and so forth. It's all in Chinese, and on the other side of this calendar, it's nothing but the basswood. It's clear number 1 basswood. This calendar he gave me, and it's held together by string. It's strung down longitudinally. And so all you have to do is just pull the string out, and you've got yourself a whole bundle of basswood, and it dyes up beautifully. And so I put that silver, whatever that silver dye is, or whatever it is, black colors it, and then put some little bit of boxcar red on it. That makes it spotty. And
Okay.
that's what a Chinese calendar is, but it's actually, you actually hang it on the wall, I guess, just like any other calendar, but it was all in Chinese or Mandarin. So and it was old. It was a year or two old that Rick gave me. He got it from his folks.
Yeah. We've got a comment and a question from Rich Jorgensen. Rich says, nice job blending foreground scenery to the backdrops. Did you paint the backdrops?
Yes, I painted the backdrops. And I think probably if you scrape the paint off, you can probably find 5 or 6 layers that I had to do.
Yeah.
I've had to paint it about 5 or 6 times to get it right. So,
Okay, and then Alex Brickoff basically says, beautiful layout, looks like it's a lot of fun to operate, and congratulations on your MMR.
oh, thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Jake Sweeney from Gibson says, well-deserved MMR accreditation, thanks. He said, I read about hard Scrabble in a magazine some time ago. Is this Dave's reference or authorship?
Well, I think what he's referring to, the term hard Scrabble is a mining term, and that's what I named the town, but it's based on Nevada City, California. And it's fairly, like I say, it's a fairly accurate depiction of Nevada City. But I don't know. I just simply named it hard Scrabble. It was the original, excuse me, it was the original terminal of the railroad before I made it go around the wall.
Okay. And then David Woodhead up in the Toronto area, who's one of our regular contributors to the pre-slideshow that we have here, says, the scenery coloring is really great. Any hints on that? Do you use acrylics?
Yes, I use acrylics simply because they're easy to clean up, and I enjoy painting. So yes, I use acrylics on all the backdrop. With that much backdrop, oil paints would be pretty expensive. So yes, the answer is acrylics.
Okay, well, let's see. I think that, as near as I can tell in the window here, that was all of the questions and comments that came in, Dave. So,
okay, well, thank you very much, and I thank you for the pleasure and privilege of presenting this little layout.
Great, Dave. Thanks so much. And also thanks to your sidekick, Jeff, there for handling the technical side for you. It all went pretty smoothly, and really enjoyed the layout. Fantastic to see.